Does your business playbook feel like a dusty old manual that nobody uses? Or worse, a chaotic mess of scattered files and forgotten documents? Well, my friend, not anymore. Because today we'll be sharing some actionable tips to transform your playbook into the ultimate tool for clarity, for consistency, and for growth. Also, stick around for some downloadable templates to get you started. Your business playbook might go by many different names. Your employee manual, your training guide, your operations manual, a company wiki, SOPs, or even your employee handbook. But whatever you call it, the goal is often very similar. It's about creating a centralized guide to how your business operates so your team can find answers, they can stay aligned, and they can ultimately work more efficiently. But here is the thing, a poorly managed playbook can actually slow your team down. It can frustrate your employees and actually keep you as the business owner or operator as the bottleneck. But with a little massaging, a bit of optimization, it can empower your team, saving you hours and also setting up your business for scalable growth. So with that in mind, let's get started. So first things first, setting clear goals for your playbook. Is it to onboard your new team members faster, or ensure consistent customer service, or streamline your operations, or all of the above? By defining your objectives up front, you'll know exactly how to structure your playbook and help you prioritize creation or the optimization of the content within it. For example, if your goal is onboarding, you'll want to focus on the role-specific training guides and procedures. If it's about streamlining operations, you might want to prioritize the workflows or the checklist within the knowledge. But having these clear goals keep you from drowning in content and help your playbook serve as the best true business asset. A well-structured and managed playbook can easily serve all of these purposes. But as an example, here might be all of the documents that is needed for a highly effective business playbook for a legal practice. But having these documents scattered all across your business actually doesn't help anyone for any of these reasons. So looking at these documents, if your playbook is exclusively focused on onboarding, you can easily organize all of these into the logical sequence for each individual role. While this will improve your onboarding, it may not actually best support the team after their first few weeks. If your ambition is to make your playbook work for onboarding, training, and also to act as your team's single source of truth, as well as your guide for managing the business, which, by the way, I think it should be, then you can actually structure your playbook into a professional tool like Waybook, where you can organize your content into logical areas for the business operations, and then you let the tool do the heavy lifting by organizing all of this content into onboarding pathways for different team members onboarding. And also, the playbook will then automatically become a centralized, searchable documentation store, as well as being a highly impactful AI assistant, essentially acting like a fully fluent manager that knows all of the information about the team, about the business, and is available when your team need it. So now let's talk about what goes into your playbook, because it's not just a big document with random instructions. Typically, you'll find that it's a mix of different types of content that serve a different specific purpose. Typically, in a high impacting playbook, you'd usually have 3 different types of documents. Normally, that would be an information document, a standard operating procedure, and perhaps a policy. Now, design what looks good for each one of these 3 documents, or of course just use an excellent template. But this will ultimately save you tons of time moving forward and actually enable you to be consistent with all of your knowledge, no matter who's creating those documents into the future. So let's dive into these different types of documents to see what good looks like. Firstly, procedures. Procedures are essentially a step-by-step list of instructions for a specific task, like onboarding a new client or setting up payroll. A great procedure will use things like numbered lists, visual elements, or even checklists to really make it foolproof. Now, if you imagine having a procedure for submitting an expense report with a screenshot of each of the individual click that somebody needs to make, it really can be a lifesaver for the team. A great procedure should always have an introduction, a link to the necessary tools and resources, and also that visual guide for their confirmation. Now, this is simple, right? And in order for you to do this more effectively, I've linked to some examples in the description below. But if you need more than just a basic procedure, then an SOP or a standard operating procedure may be what you need. SOPs are generally more comprehensive. They outline how recurring tasks should be done to ensure consistency. So for example, an SOP for handling customer complaints might actually include the checklist for the tone of voice, the follow-up timelines, and escalation processes. If a procedure focuses on the what and the when, then an SOP essentially emphasizes the how. And you'll usually be able to see who owns the SOP, the roles and responsibilities, and where the decision points and decision people lie within that. A great SOP will also have a mix of text, images, videos, perhaps files and attachments. It will also have a really clear structure and often a very good feedback mechanism for continuous improvements. You can actually find a template and a link to a free AI SOP generator in the description below. Next up, we have our policies. These are your high-level rules and standards. Think about HR policies, remote work policies, or cybersecurity guidelines. A good policy should be clear, it should be concise, and really easy to follow. So for example, a one-page remote work policy might outline the expectations for the hours, how we do communication, and what equipment is needed. Now, while policies generally don't have to look as engaging or interactive as the other documents, it's always best to avoid a plain wall of text and actually try and format these policies in a way that ultimately help your team navigate and understand what they're reading. And the final type of document that you might have within your playbook is your processes. Your processes are essentially your higher level workflows that describes how these tasks connect to one another. Think about the process for launching a new product. From ideation to marketing to sales, we can use visual diagrams, flowcharts, or our sequential documents that help us keep it simple and clear on where these handover points are. Now, the key here to your playbook is variety. We really do need these different types of content in order to have all of these bases covered. And the good news is that there are templates and examples for each one of these available in the description below. So now we know the different types of content that we need, the important thing to remember is that we want to add context and not just the steps. This mistake is something that we see all too often, playbooks that really always list out the what, but completely skip the why. Context is key. For policies, for example, try and explain how these things align to your company culture or why they protect your team. For procedures, highlight how following each step impacts the business. For example, for a social media SOP, we might say that having consistent posting builds brand trust and engagement. Adding this context isn't essential, but it really helps our team connect the dots and actually enables them to take more ownership of the roles rather than just blindly following the steps. While we always strive to remove the ambiguity in our playbooks, having this context means that our team can actually understand the sentiment and the intent behind the information, which really does do wonders in the case where somebody has perhaps some of the specifics lacking in the document that they're following. So now we've got the documents, we know that there's nice context in there. Really, we want to focus on making it accessible and engaging. Even the best playbook will not help anyone if nobody uses it. So we now need to make sure that it is accessible and engaging. First, we want to centralize our playbook into one searchable platform. Tools like Waybook make this super easy. You can even organize everything logically so your team can find answers in seconds and it's easy for you to manage knowledge across the team. The game to play here is essentially bringing knowledge closer to your team rather than expecting that your team should move closer to the knowledge. One of our main focuses at Waybook is ensuring that there is zero friction between the team and the knowledge. To ultimately make it easier for your team to ask Waybook than it would be for them to ask a colleague. Now, this actually avoids the building of tribal knowledge, and also it means that the information doesn't live on a whisper. It doesn't mean that it changes every time that it's shared between your team members. At Waybook, this is achieved by not only making your knowledge accessible within search, but also acting as a powerful AI chatbot, essentially like ChatGPT for your team, always available, private to your business, and fluent on your company knowledge. Also, making this available wherever your team is, so via browser extensions, mobile apps, or even within your conversations on Microsoft Teams or Slack. Finally, think to add interactive elements like your checklist or actually quizzes to boost both engagement and also make sure that people really know what they're talking about. And while this feels like a lot for your team to do, trust me, they will thank you. When you're creating or optimizing your business playbook, don't forget that your team is actually your biggest asset when optimizing this. After all, they are the ones that are doing the work and using your playbook daily. So make sure that you gather their feedback on what works, what doesn't, and also what's missing. Now you can do this by doing things like hosting workshops or kind of brainstorming sessions together with people on how we refine the processes and the knowledge. When your team contributes, they're more likely to adopt the playbook, and also you'll catch the blind spots that people have missed. As well as asking people directly, make sure that you have a tool like Waybook that has both the tracking, the analytics, and the feedback loops so you can identify any of these knowledge gaps across the business. We've recently worked with a legal practice of 40 people, and they did an amazing job of making the optimization of their content part of a job. So every week, people had to optimize the documentation about how they did the work. And the founder said that this was the perfect way of getting people to focus on how they were doing the work rather than getting stuck in the minutiae of the day-to-day. And now finally, we've optimized our playbook and we're feeling pretty good. But remember, your business evolves and so should your playbook. Outdated information is often worse than no information at all. So I would recommend trying to schedule in quarterly reviews to ensure that everything stays relevant. Now, within this, you can assign specific sections to different team members in order for you to maintain that accountability across the team. And of course, if you are using a tool like Waybook, you can set reminders to update, verify, and improve content automatically. Keeping your playbook current ensures that it continues to add value to the team and keeping your team aligned, but it also keeps the confidence level very high across the business that the single source of truth is the playbook, and therefore they won't go off and put knowledge on a whisper. The one final thing I'd say that almost everybody forgets to do is to make sure that you measure the success and effectiveness of your playbook. Try and identify and track the metrics like the usage, the search activity, the feedback from the team, and also the core things you're trying to improve. For example, if you're looking at improving onboarding, how quickly can you onboard people now as opposed to when you had an unoptimized playbook? To recap, you can optimize your playbook with setting clear goals, having diverse content types, adding in context to the information, utilizing your team involvement, and also having regular updates. If you're ready to level up your playbook or your internal knowledge, feel free to grab the free templates I've linked below and also check out Waybook. It is designed to help you create, optimize, and maintain the ultimate business playbook for your team. Thanks so much for joining me. Do not forget to like and subscribe, and also share your own tips in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoy some smooth scaling.